Hey guys, Ashish here. I've been running the Modern Marketer podcast for quite some time. Last time here we had Ben Data from Power Digital, who kind of like shared a lot of stuff about how incrementality testing and the new holistic measurement is becoming important for people who are spending their money. Today I have with me Jonathan. Jonathan comes from an amazing, one of the thickest experiences I can think of. He was, primarily in the services before serving the nation, and then eventually went on to build his e-com businesses, and now trying to help others grow their business as well. So, Jonathan, thanks so much for being here. Would love to know a little bit more about your journey, man. How did you switch from the services to e-com to digital? It's some crazy moves for anybody to do, and you're here doing it, and now you're just part of some other world altogether.
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy experience, but every experience in my history was definitely provided value for that led up to where I am today, and definitely took a lot away from each industry that I touched to really give myself a unique perspective. So I was actually in the U.S. Air Force. I was a captain in the U.S. Air Force, practiced dentistry there for 3 years in Louisiana. So that was actually what gave me the start in digital marketing and e-commerce in general. So basically, the days would start at 7 a.m. They would end at 3 p.m. So I had all this free time. I was stationed in the middle of nowhere in Louisiana. And at the time, my brother, Dan, who's been my partner for the past 10 plus years on numerous different businesses, he was building large organic social media pages on Twitter, on Instagram. And he identified the opportunity to build an affiliate marketing platform that essentially got anyone with a large audience on social media onto the platform, and then brands or businesses could run CPA offers, affiliate offers through those pages. So we scaled that up. We generated 9 figures in revenue in the first 2 years of launching that. So he built @Wrap on Instagram. So that was like a publisher page. So we had publisher pages on the platform. We had influencers, celebrities, athletes. We ended up working with most of the influencers that you could even think of. And we had this massive network now. Then we started launching our own e-commerce brands, leveraging our influencer network that we had built. And that's where we started getting really good at everything e-commerce. So, running a Shopify brand, obviously, does traffic with influencers is only one component. When you learn paid social, paid search, landing page testing, performance creative, everything, you name it, that goes into scaling, the Shopify tech stack, analytics, we started mastering that and building out the blueprint. From there, we scaled our first brand up to 7 figures within 6 months of launching it. Then we launched another brand in a different niche, different target market. That one, same thing, 7 figures profitably within 6 months. And the third brand hit it big, 8 figures in revenue within the first year. And then that one grew to 30 million in revenue. And we started just rinsing and repeating this with different brands in different verticals as we were testing out our blueprint. Did really well. And then brands started coming to us asking if we could run the marketing for them. So that's how the agency was born. During this whole time frame, finished my time with the Air Force. I started a 3-year residency program, started and finished a 3-year orthodontic residency program in Brooklyn, New York. So I moved back to the Northeast where I'm from. And then we launched the agency, and I was almost living a double life, working 2 totally separate careers simultaneously and doing it with excellence. I was the chief resident my last year too. So a lot of responsibility comes with that. And by the time I was the chief resident, I was also employing 30 to 40 people. So I was, a full-time employer as well. And then COVID hit, actually. COVID hit in March 2020. I was actually under contract to buy an orthodontic practice in New York City the week that COVID hit. And I actually pulled out of the deal because we all know what happened in New York City. Everything shut down. And the agency scaled a ton during COVID. We know what happened with e-commerce, all the pull forward growth. And by the time things opened back up in New York City, there was just no time, honestly, for me to really go back and work both careers simultaneously. So that's the story.
Oh, okay, crazy. Let's take this bit by bit. When you started your first brand, you said you grew it to 7 figures in 6 months. What are some of the things which really got in that traffic? I'm sure your platform of influencers, your network of influencers was one, but then obviously it doesn't cut it. you need to do paid. You need to go TikTok. You need to go, other social media platforms, and make sure you do a ton of things and learn a ton of things. Whenever I talk to somebody who run paid, there's always that three learnings which come apart. One, hey, we did obviously had a lot of ad wastage. We couldn't really forecast how much we're going to make out of it. Two, we really didn't do that much of testing with, many things, right? It can be audiences, creators, and all that. So, what were some of your learning that which happened because this is a quick growth, right? 0 to 7 figures in 6 months is a quick growth. And then you'll have to stabilize and focus on retaining and increasing the customer value and all that. What are the levers of growth that you guys had?
Honestly, the first brand, it was a very primitive strategy that we were just pouring the fuel on the fire. We weren't even really doing paid media. It was purely influencer marketing campaigns. But what really hit was that we had a wide array of influencers that had audiences in different niches. So we doubled down on that and we made super custom tailored content for that specific niche. So the content, the creatives that we were showing, the funnels we were leveraging were very customized and drilled down to that exact niche so that people that were following those influencers saw people in the creatives that they resonated with. So I think being able to do that at scale.
How are you measuring sales with this whole influencer program? Because one end is, contributing to people searching your brand, maybe on TikTok itself or Google, wherever people do that. How do you attribute to sales?
Yeah, back then there was no TikTok. This is 2014. So
crazy.
Purely Instagram influencers, the way that we attributed it, old-fashioned UTMs, link in bio, and essentially working with these influencers on different offers. We had access to basically, we could, and this is before Instagram changed the algorithm. So reach was very predictable. We essentially knew how to value what a 24-hour post was worth on every influencer's page on Instagram back in the day because of all the traffic we were driving through our UTMs. So it was very predictable. Influencers were more leveraged as affiliates back then because reach was predictable and it was replicable. And then Instagram realized that everyone was going around them. They're not going through the ad platform, right? They're paying the influencers directly. So then Meta doesn't get their cut, right? So of course they threw a wrench into the algorithm to make reach unpredictable and kind of blew that up. But it's all returned recently, influencers as affiliates because of TikTok shops. TikTok shops, you can attribute, as long as you have a TikTok shop set up and the influencer posts and tags the product in the post, TikTok shop analytics on the back end and Seller Central there, you can identify all the engagement, all the metrics, all the, all the revenue that post generated. So it's the return of influencers as affiliates in present day.
Was this a common strategy for you guys to grow all the three companies that you built, or was it completely?
No, I mean we had 9 brands. So that first brand was purely influencer marketing. And then the second brand is where we started investing in mastering Facebook ads. We were actually before we even did it ourselves. We were clients of an agency. Agency was underperforming. Didn't make sense how, those paid media campaigns were losing money, but everything else we were doing was, generating really strong returns. So I remember it like it's yesterday. I took Memorial Day weekend off, locked myself in the house from Friday to Monday. Matt took the whole Facebook Blueprint course, and then launching ads on Tuesday and, was outperforming the agency by magnitudes. And so that was the start.
You took it as a mission and you did it yourself, like how you asked for. That's cool.
That's very much my mentality. You identify something that's high leverage and you just go learn it. There's, the internet, especially now with, generative AI and LLMs and everything. I mean, there's no excuse for not being able to teach yourself something. And none of this stuff is rocket science.
Why have a guided start when you can self-start and outperform, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty cool. Let's move on to some of the recent stuff that has happened post-COVID, right? A lot of creators came on TikTok. A lot of creators started making money, freely selling products. TikTok obviously once was just curated just for entertainment and still is in some form of fashion, but still it's started to a lot of people started to shift here from Meta to TikTok, and there is still that game going on in few of the brands I see. But I see that TikTok is becoming much more relevant. The targeting is just getting better. The creator is just getting better, and I think the data that TikTok is really curating to for even people to advertise. I wouldn't say advertise. I would say more of like market themselves to the right people, and then it's just getting better day by day, right? We just closed them as our clients right today. They're gonna use us for doing their measurements as well. So it's gonna be pretty cool to learn what's under the hood. But why did you predict that it's gonna be much more big this year?
Yeah, it's really all comes down to TikTok shops. It's the biggest
Hmm.
opportunity for e-commerce brands that I've identified in years, probably since email and well, not email, but ever since SMS a few years ago really bursted onto the scene, and that being able to generate incremental spurts of revenue. That's what I'm seeing with TikTok shops. That's where I'm focusing all my attention, and it really comes down to the virality of content, especially TikTok shop tagged content on the platform.
Hmm.
It's vastly different than Meta because organic content on Instagram and Facebook does not go viral and reach accounts that don't follow you to the extent that happens on TikTok. So
Right.
organic on TikTok is a performance channel now. It's very different than like an Instagram grid, which is art heavy. It's not really engaging. It's where you tell your brand story. And there's a place for that. It's essentially like a landing page for a brand to tell your story and maybe a history on the brand and the products and what they stand for, what the mission is. But it doesn't generate revenue, organic posts on Instagram and Facebook.
Hmm.
TikTok, organic is performance. It's the highest leverage content on social media today is organic viral content. And what's great there is that if you're a brand, you can take a lot of risks on TikTok organically. You don't need to spend any ad dollars, to post something on your brand's page. You can test different hooks, different pain points, different creators, different anything. And whatever you see traction on, then you can amplify it through Spark codes and run your paid media campaigns with predictability there based on what's already working organically. And
Hmm.
then TikTok affiliates, which there's a whole affiliate marketplace now on TikTok itself that you need over 5,000 followers and you essentially apply as an affiliate to TikTok shop. And then they can tag the products. So if you're a brand, you're working with influencers, and this is where influencer marketing, everyone said, kind of died over the past few years, is because you pay these influencers, their post doesn't really generate any revenue, and you just take that content and then you use it for your Facebook ads. That was
Hmm.
the use case of influencer. It was really for UGC and for your paid media campaigns. On TikTok, very much like the brand organic page has virality, same thing with the TikTok influencer pages. They have virality as well. So you work out a deal with them, you pay them a little fixed fee plus some commission upside. So they're incentivized to generate content that'll perform. They post it, it goes viral. Then you amplify that with paid media dollars. So it's like, that's why TikTok right now, you get this high leverage activity to get the flywheel going. And it's a volume game. It's a numbers game. You'll never know what'll take off. So it's get as many influencers as you can, post as many times on your brand page as can, go live as many times from your brand page as you can. And now you're casting a wide net. You're finding things that are working in little pockets. You double down on that, you trim the fat, and then on the next month, you do it all over again. Different influencers. Now you already have an army of 10 that worked last month. You get them on retainer. They post, 20 times a month now. And that's how you scale. And it's
Yeah.
reminiscent of the days of when I first got started, which is why why I'm so excited about TikTok shops. Is I have that feeling that like there's endless opportunity here that's not being capitalized on. And
Hmm.
the amount of sellers that are tagging products on TikTok shop right now is, I think, less than 10% of the number of merchants on Meta right now. So there's in just Q4 alone, Black Friday, 5 million plus new consumers purchase something on TikTok shop.
Are your brands aware of this? Are they riding on this already? Or where are they with this whole sentiment?
Yeah, I would say this is the number one opportunity for us as an agency. We're actually official partners with TikTok Shop too, which there's not many of. So we get access to white glove support. TikTok Shop is pretty clunky. Like any new platform or technology, there's always going to be bugs and things to work through. So we get that dedicated support, which is key. But I think brands, even non-clients of ours and clients of ours, they've identified that this is where they should definitely be focusing on a lot. And what's great is that you find something that works on TikTok creatively on an organic post or on an influencer post. And now that's very likely to work on your Facebook ad campaigns. So it's just more high leverage to focus there, because then you take what works there and you just copy and paste it to your other platforms. And it doesn't work both ways. You can't just take Instagram creative, throw it on TikTok and expect it to work.
Yeah. I mean, that end doesn't work. Got it. What is the current media mix that you see? I don't know, like, do you work with brands who are making like 50 mil above, or are you working with more of a mid-size? So depending on that, like, where do you see the current media mix for an e-commerce brand? How is it? Where is the money being more put in, which is really giving more, sales up through?
Yeah, we work with brands of all sizes, anywhere from launch all the way to one of our biggest clients, one of the biggest Shopify brands in the world that everyone's aware of. So honestly, the strategies are really fairly similar from a creative perspective, from an overall marketing perspective. Obviously, the more data you have on a brand, the easier it is to forecast and build sustainable models and everything like that. But the media mix, I would say, across the board is really 80% Meta, maybe 75 to 80% Meta. I would say around 20%, 25% Google. And then TikTok is that last 5%. And then there's a little bit of nominal spend on Bing as well. Brands that are scaling and are looking to diversify budgets incrementally will bring the Bing. Pinterest and Snap are definitely laggers behind the top three that I just mentioned. YouTube is a part of Google. We like YouTube. So that's kind of how the land is shaped in present day. So what I'm excited for is TikTok as an ad platform to mature. I'm so excited about TikTok Shops, but it's really not because of the ad platform. It's more so because of the organic and the influencer side of things. And then the ad platform will follow. But I think Meta is just so far above every other platform, like levels above every other platform in terms of discovery and conversion all in one. The data, the machine learning, the history. I mean, it's hard to even compare sustainable, scalable performance.
On our front, right, we have been observing few things from the last 2 years, because we've been, primarily helping people in the attribution game, in the data modeling, in the entire prediction game when it comes to putting the media budgets and all that. And one clear thing which has come since the announcement of cookie deprecation, we're seeing it happening now and all that. This whole importance of getting in all data in one place, right? Especially if you're your Shopify stack and you're running your ad dollars and you're doing a bunch of other things from marketing level, and then you're doing a bunch of optimizations on your website, and then you're also doing down the funnel retention programs and all that, right? So, and then you're trying to get the P&L right at the end of the day, right? So it's becoming much more important for people when they sit in board meetings or when they sit in meetings to really plan, that they need to really trickle down on the correct indicators of growth, and that means sales, right? When it comes to this, you also spoke about this and you were writing a newsletter that how centralizing all this data is becoming important. Why was this a problem that you faced when you were growing it, or you've been seeing this from the recent times because there's just more stack coming on to play? There's just so many tools which is doing one particular thing, and people just, that whole MarTech stack, that whole e-commerce stack, GDC stack is just piling up, and there's so much data across the table, and people aren't able to figure out, oh man, how do I understand my customers more better? How do I give them more experience? what is the true problem behind all of this?
Yeah, we focused a lot of 2023 on building this centralized analytics platform internally, which is powered by Source Medium. We had a partner that really come in and help with the data infrastructure, obviously extracting, transforming the data, and then visualizing it. Yeah, we just had a huge void in terms of data we could trust, data that was right at our fingertips, and data that was easy to visualize, and having a centralized business intelligence dashboard that every team in a company would touch, right? Somewhere where finance team could go to see profitability on a daily basis, somewhere where the creative team could go to see creative performance without having to log into the ad platforms and this and that and customizing the column settings and all that kind of stuff. Somewhere where the search team could go, and somewhere where all the teams could go to the other views and see, all right, here's what's working on social, on Facebook. Here's what's working on email. Here's what our LTV is, right? Like that's actually LTV in general was something that was my biggest pain point as a marketer. Going in and seeing LTV, like out of the box solutions, I don't want to name names, but the LTV that they did show was inaccurate. AOV they did show was inaccurate. Why? Because they didn't model out the data. They didn't model out $0 draft orders for, reshipments to customers who had lost packages or damaged products. They didn't filter out influencer orders. So that impacts AOV, right? If you're not extracting the outliers. So it's almost like having access to the data that wasn't even reliable is more dangerous than not even having the data, because now you're setting the wrong acquisition targets and scaling, right, when you shouldn't be scaling, or so
you're making all the bad moves already, right?
Correct. And then not having anytime we would have a thesis internally, like, to inform marketing strategy. If we were like, what's the LTV of our paid Facebook traffic versus our paid Google traffic versus our organic Google traffic versus whatever theories we have, we would always take this long Excel, manipulation of the data and filtering things, overlaying data, and it would take way too much time to come up with simple answers that should be readily available. So that caused us to essentially just build our own solution on the piggyback of a data provider. And
that's interesting. I mean, wasn't there? I mean, you went to the market to find another. Why did you build it in-house?
Well, I would say when we say build it in-house, we didn't have any data engineers in-house. It was essentially us with Source Medium who built it for us the way that I wanted, in a way that a marketer would be able to look at this, and a whole team would look at this and make it actionable. I'll say like the main vendors out on the market that are available, like, didn't even have the data that we would want to see. So
right. Okay, crazy. So now your team is more primarily taking better decisions for this campaign. The brands are able to see much more clear vision in terms of like what's going on with their marketing and with their sales, and then there's a very shared attribution relationship going on between the guy who's running paid and the guy who's doing organic. Is this where I'm going at?
Yep, exactly.
And again, so recently there was everybody, I think, in the industry is talking about this whole thing of the Snoop Dogg campaign which happened, and then the CEO getting busted because of that, and then everybody has their own views with that, right? So, I mean, when I tried to dig deep on this, but I think fairly it was, I think it is the lack of understanding that when you run a, let's say, a campaign with such a big influencer coming onto an e-commerce brand, nobody is going to buy your product immediately, right? Like until you've really hit that target customer at that particular point of time where he's looking for it. But that it's like I don't know, some really small percentage of people, right? So it was all about trying to understand that, hey, you need to sustain this whole uh, traffic that you've got, you gotta like keep them on. You gotta give them reasons to follow you. You gotta give them understand them much more better, and there will come a time where they'll need, but you need to understand this first. And primarily, the CEO got busted because the CFO was like, "Hey, we got the projected sales that we wanted to achieve." With this whole campaign, we couldn't reach it, and then that was it, right? And people started to blame the CEO, people started to blame the agency who did that and all that. Uh, what do you think might have been a root cause of this? Because it's such a recent topic which has happened, and it's causing so much of different views on, hey, should we have measured it properly? Should we have done tested this whole thing properly before? What are your views on this? Because you've been there, done this.
Yeah, I've given it some thought for sure. I don't think the CEO was canned because of that. I don't know if this is a
Okay.
publicity stunt just for the brand to get some free impressions in the media, but
Right.
first of all, that's a brand that was a lifestyle outdoor brand. We know that those were the big winners in COVID. Everyone was staying at home, spending time in their backyard, cooking, doing everything at home, right? And so there was a huge, and that overlaid with all the money that was free flowing in the industry. So like high AOV brands were really crushing because people had extra income. So conversion rates were going up, right? Overlay that the macro conditions that were favorable with the lifestyle and changes of COVID at the time. That brand had an explosive amount of revenue. Then we go into macroeconomic, difficulties. People
Mm-hmm.
start going out again, maybe not staying at home and cooking as much. So like they dealt with probably a huge forecast disruption, right? So, and there's no way, there's no way Snoop Dogg and that marketing campaign in general was the reason why they missed forecasts or why their stock tanked. There's so many external factors, and maybe that's the easy one to blame or point to, or maybe that was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it was a few $100,000 in wasted spend, but that's not the reason why their stock is down probably like 90% or whatever the number is now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take on it. But,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they're using these extra impressions now. Arguably, they might be getting more impressions on this PR from the CEO getting fired than the actual marketing campaign itself. So I always say bad press to an extent is better than
Any
no press. So
any
I think
press
it's
is good.
brilliant
Yeah.
marketing. This is another marketing campaign in itself, So that's my take. That
Yeah.
maybe they staged this to extract more value out of who knows.
Yeah.
So, interesting.
I mean, he got a good exit, I guess, with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it hard to forecast sales from influencer campaigns? Because it's a question of virality. It's a question of
Yeah.
we don't know how much this is gonna go. We really don't know. It's a black box until you launch.
That is
Right?
100% correct. You
Yes.
cannot
Okay.
forecast performance of an influencer campaign, especially when you're relying on virality.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can definitely do things to improve your chances of, hitting a forecast, right? Like volume of
What do you?
content, the creative brief. So like I keep saying, volume of content is quantity is everything.
Mm-hmm.
So TikTok literally rewards brands and creators that are posting more frequently on the platform. If you're investing in the platform, TikTok invests in you. Essentially, that's my take on how the algorithm works. So volume of content increases your chances of going viral. The creative brief is key. So truly understanding pain points to go after, strong hooks, pain points, make sure that the content is captivating and native to the platform and raw and real,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're, implementing some performance elements. Those are things you can do to increase your chances of hitting a forecast, but it's really unpredictable.
Uh, do you feel? I mean, I really don't know if they worked it in this way, but like I feel that people need to maybe test a creative brief, or like, usually when films go out, right? You have a bunch of critique, you have your in-house teams really looking at that content, reviewing it, they're giving you feedback before they go to launch, and it's a very innate thing in entertainment industry to do that, right? And I feel people need to do that even as brands as well. where you run the create once the final creative thing comes out, you need to, roll it around within few people that you really know, can be even a small community that you build. And then uh, they should be able to really give you some insights upon it. But again, these are just perspectives, right? These are just some experience feedback coming in. Do you think that would really still help people before they go out and just schedule a campaign?
Yeah, you mean like circulating a creative brief and aligning the teams internally? Absolutely. That's like
Yeah.
that's a differentiator
Not just
for
not
our
just
team.
not just internally, but even maybe within other few creators that you worked before, and you're just launching the really big ass campaign, where you're involving them as well, but they're just more adding more fuel, but not really gauging the impact of the campaign. Do you think
Of
this is
course.
a
Yeah, no,
common practice?
whenever we give briefs to an influencer, we never give them a script. We give them talking points and things to hit on and the overall theme. We want to give them their creative freedom to execute it in their
Mm-hmm,
own brand, in their own
mm-hmm,
style.
mm-hmm.
That'll just improve the relatability and the natural appearance of that content. But
Mm-hmm.
having teams work internally, like an influencer marketing team, being able to work with the performance marketing team, like the media buying team,
Mm-hmm.
that's always going to produce better creative briefs because the media buyers are in the ad accounts. They know what works. They've seen what works. They know what doesn't work. So they have all
Right.
the creative, like performance creative ideas that they can help coordinate with the influencer team who might be looking for other different attributes, like the actual creators they're sourcing, right? And maybe not so much what they're saying, but finding creators that relate to that niche creators that have strong engagement rates and so on and so forth.
Yeah, awesome. Great. That sounds good. So another, thread I want to start right now is, uh, you know, I think most of the brands right now in the industry are still in the growth phase, I would say. We're still yet to see a lot of large brands come out of the industry and we're still growing. And most of them, I think, either tackle growth or they tackle sustainability, and some of them do both of it so beautifully, right? And one thing which really comes out, especially if they're working with an agency, is to one, reduce the ad wastage which happens because they don't want to overspend stuff, right? They want to optimize for better profits. Two, they want to know, uh, at least when you're trying to win more media budget, you would be definitely doing some sort of scenario planning and saying that, hey, we've got to put some money in here, all of that. So, how are you guys currently doing that? Because this is a very tedious process with respect to it's a collaboration from both you and the brand, right? With respect to connecting all that data sources and then figuring out the budget, doing all those scenario planning. You don't have data scientists with you, right? Doing all of this, and you also predicted this also in the newsletter that this whole somebody building SaaS for this is going to become important. Uh, why is this coming along?
Yeah. So forecasting is very different for brands of all sizes. Obviously, building a forecast for a brand in its first or even second year, or a brand that doesn't have reliable, sustainable data, like let's say they went out of stock for 2 months and that threw off 2 months of the year. Now it's going to be hard to do a year over year comparison. And so
Right.
brands in that phase, it's almost like a useless endeavor.
Yeah.
Some of our clients, I would say, are more growth focused and they have unlimited budget and they want to grow at all costs if we're hitting a certain acquisition cost. And you have that
Mm-hmm.
type of client. Then we have other clients that are very calculated and careful and want manufactured growth, slow and steady. And so maybe we'll build different scenarios on here's how many active customers, here's, basically split up in two buckets, acquisition and then retention of customers. And then obviously like revenue decay and things like that for the retention audiences. And then how do we forecast spend at different, or how do we forecast any like acquisition marketing efficiency ratios at different levels of spend, and
Yeah.
then play with those numbers. It's also a guessing game to an extent. When you put humans into like a seat like that,
Mm-hmm.
it's you're going to get results all over the map. right? So my whole idea is that humans should not be forecasting. They should be using tools that do the forecasting. The
So
tools should be able to look at the
that
historical data. The tools should
right.
be able to look at all the ad spend and all the campaigns and every single ad platform that you have, centralize it, and then understand like saturation curves of audiences. And essentially forecasting and media buying, in my opinion, should not be calculated and decided upon by humans who have a lot of subjective elements, and it would take a long time for them to do some of the math that machine learning can do right now.
Yeah.
Like even charting like acquisition MER at different levels of spend, a human doing that, like doing regression curve, this, that, whatever, it's a futile
Too
effort.
much.
It's not going to work. So I want to see technology, and I know there's companies out there that are building this to essentially give you
Yeah.
a forecast, a revenue forecast for the next 12 months based on the historical data that they have. And then they should
No,
give you
yeah.
confidence intervals, right? So they're like, hey, if you spend 20% more on this channel or this campaign, your revenue and your return will actually go up or down by this much. So then, like, here's our recommendation. Here's how confident we are with it. And then you as a human know how to use that tool, and you can either take the recommendation or not, right? So it'll save a lot of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. A lot of folks who come across our front have been really wanting to, again, play around, right? To be really frank, right? Uh, if they have an X budget, they want to reduce it. They want to know the media mix for it, or they want to know, hey, okay, we're going to put this money for this month. Where do we stop, right? All that saturation bit to the table, and now it's getting much more, even more difficult because they also want to take in a lot of external factors, new products being launched in the market, any sort of seasonality coming into play. Any
Macroeconomic conditions,
exact,
consumer
yeah,
confidence, credit card
yeah,
debt, student loans. There's a lot that goes into it. And so I see
exactly,
these humans
yeah,
talk about forecasting and forecasting a year out. So much can happen. It's like anything, we should be looking at month over month forecasts. Maybe we could do it. It constantly evolves based on all the different confounding variables that are happening outside of your business that impact your business.
yeah. We've been looking into this AI, which is primarily it's more of a technique which sits on top of marketing mix modeling. It's causal inference, right? It's a very common technique which is getting productized. We're working on something of a causal AI type of scenario, which sits on top of the centralized data or your model data. And even when you're trying to do all of these incremental tests, we kind of know all the journeys being taken from different causes to sales, right? Because it's primarily just similar to what you see on J4, where you see people coming in from different sources to your website, but here you're going to be seeing different sources to your sales, right? So it's pretty interesting. We've been demoing it to a few clients of ours like Nestle and all that. They're getting really excited, right? Even some of our agencies, publicists, and all these guys are really opening up their ears and eyes for this, and that's going to be a game changer. And we're launching soon. We're actually launching this pretty much by end of Feb, and we'll see how this goes. But this is while we are seeing a lot of people still adapt to old school market mix modeling, which they should, uh, uh, we still see that a lot of people, especially in bigger brands, data engineers, all of these people are looking out for more cause and effect scenarios to be played out, and this is turning out to be a game changer for people who are pitching, and we'll see how this goes. So, apart from this, one interesting thing which is happening right now is this whole tracking issue, which is going to be played out through deprecation of cookies and all that. There's going to be more importance of unified identity coming on to play. More people need to understand first party stuff, to really come along and get that personalized experience and then, as retargeting and all that. So how are you guys as agency like tackling this stuff? Is there more internal reorientation happening around the front, or have you guys already been doing this? Because it's been announced from past 2 years. How are your clients responding to that this year? Would love to know because this is something of this is causing troubles in the whole landscape of tracking, identification, measurement, all in one. Right?
Yep. Yeah, it comes down to just focusing on first and zero party data. So we're using one provider. I mean, cookies are still an issue right now, right? Even though because cookies expire and people fall out of your retargeting audiences and pixels and email segments and everything like that. So something we've been addressing proactively already. We use a third-party vendor called Blotout that actually helps assign lifetime IDs and everything like that to the users. That that so you essentially cookie-proof yourself. So that's our way of like tracking and essentially building our own identity database of our customers so that we can use in targeting and email campaigns and everything like that. But then there's also attribution considerations as well. So probabilistic attribution versus deterministic attribution. Yeah. So exploring probabilistic attribution and thinking about that as well as a measurement solution.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Would love to maybe show you what you built and see if this is going to help you guys out. Meanwhile, for people listening who are primarily marketers and pretty much, some of the CMOs, if all of our listeners want to come to you with their problems, what would the problems be that you guys can really solve for them?
Yep.
And then, how can you really grow their brand in 2024 with things that they can't do?
Yeah, I mean, the lowest hanging fruit right now, if you're a brand, really doesn't even matter what revenue band you're at right now. If you are not activated on TikTok shops yet, that's the lowest hanging fruit. That can be a whole explosive new channel for you. Like I said before, we are official TikTok shop partners. We can help guide you along the process with setting up the shop, optimizing the shop, generating organic and affiliate traffic to the shop, and ultimately paid traffic as well. And then if you're just a brand that's struggling scaling in any area of the business, that's what we're best at. We identify where the pain points are in the funnel. Is this an organic traffic issue? Is this a paid traffic issue? Is this a cost of traffic issue? Is it an internal cost of goods sold issue, and that your margins are just too crappy to actually generate profitable top of funnel campaigns? So we understand every element of an e-commerce business, given our history and our past as an e-commerce holding company. We can identify where those issues are, build a whole roadmap of solutions, and help right the ship. I will say that we are mostly focused on an ICP of brands that are in 8 figures in annual revenue and up. So these are brands that generally have the resources available to implement the strategies that we have. So I'd say keep that in mind as well. If you're not doing 8 figures in annual revenue yet, it might make sense to, not saying to hire internally. That's actually probably more costly than hiring an agency, but oftentimes the brand owner has to dig deep on the marketing side and truly understand what works for their brand. So yeah, outside of that, any brand that fits that ICP and is struggling with growth or looking for new tactics, we have certain brands that we've helped that were doing great. They're growing every year, but we unlocked a whole new tactic for them through performance PR, that they were able to now double their paid social spend and paid search spend simply because of this one new tactic. And their growth went from 100% to 200% year over year because of that. So we have all the tools at our disposal that have worked for our brands and our clients. So feel free to follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn. I share routine insights. Even if you're not going to work with my agency directly, you can definitely learn and follow along. And then I also just started a newsletter too, where I'll be providing more in the snow, providing more free value and updates on the industry and what I'm seeing.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see. I've already subscribed to it, so pretty excited to what you come up. But yeah, I also keep writing stuff in the same space. We should keep in touch. And then, cheers, man. Thanks for joining in.
Awesome.
This was a great run.
Thanks for having me.